A few years ago, I did a podcast with Dr. Antonio Gracefo here on this channel. People seemed to like it. It got a lot of views, especially a little snippet that we clipped out where Dr. Gracefo described his experience training at the Shaolin Temple in 2 different decades. And he answered a few questions that some of you asked, specifically, how would the Shaolin monks do in a cage fight? To which he said they'd get killed instantly. Are you kidding me? That's not what they train for. And a lot of people got very upset about that because apparently people have these fantastic ideas about Shaolin monks, but we're not talking about the Shaolin monks today. Dr. Gracefo is currently teaching at a university in Mongolia, and he's doing a dissertation on Bok wrestling culture in Ulaanbaatar. Bok wrestling, if you don't know, is a traditional Mongolian form of wrestling where the wrestlers wear a kind of a harness and they grab each other and they try to throw each other on the ground. The guy who remains standing wins. The guy who goes down does not win. Pretty simple rule set. Lots of wrestling rule sets across the world are very similar to this. Sumo is very similar. Northern Chinese jacketed wrestling, or shuaijiao, is very similar to this. There was a similar wrestling style in the United States during the colonial period up through the 1800s, early 1900s on the East Coast. I'm not sure what it was called, but pretty common form of wrestling. Throw the other guy, don't get thrown. So Dr. Gracefo posted this on Facebook the other day. He was doing an interview for his dissertation, interviewing a bunch of young wrestlers. This 18-year-old guy answers these questions. Gracefo says, question, do you think Mongolian men are stronger, tougher, and more manly than men from other countries? The answer, yes. I think Mongolian men are more manly than men from other countries. Question, how does wrestling relate to masculinity? Answer, being a wrestler means having all the masculine traits. Question, why do parents want their sons to be wrestlers? Answer, parents want their children to be Mongolian men. I think that's why. Question, anything else you want to say? Answer, to my fellows out there, I want to say that our generation is starting to forget our national sports. We should be interested in our national sports. It is very important. It is a very important part of our culture. The part of this that really stood out to me. How does wrestling relate to masculinity? And when this young man answered, being a wrestler means having all of the masculine traits. Something about that just seemed incredibly true to me. And I started to think about how many diatribes I have seen and heard on the internet pitting wrestlers or grapplers against strikers. We even saw this in the original UFC. Grappling versus striking. I'm going to posit something to you that might come off as controversial, and you might hate it, but I'm going to tell you this. Striking is inherently feminine. Grappling is inherently masculine. And because the overwhelming majority, like 99.9% of the viewers of this channel, are men, a bunch of you are going to take issue with that, especially since, as far as I understand it, the overwhelming majority of you who train in martial arts and watch this channel train in striking, martial arts, and don't grapple. Even though a lot of what I teach you on this channel is grappling. And you're going to think or feel that I'm calling you a girly man for not grappling. No, I'm not. I'm telling you that striking arts are inherently feminine in nature. Grappling is inherently masculine. Feminine and masculine, it's the yin and the yang. They go together. These are not two separate things. These are two complementary things. And this is the beauty of mixed martial arts to me, because it's both. Whereas, if all you do is wrestle, that's great. That's awesome. But you'll notice there will be gaping holes in your game if you ever plan on competing in a cage fight. If all you ever do is strike and do Muay Thai and kickboxing, you're dead in the water as soon as you step in the cage. Because one without the other is incomplete. Yeah, man. That's an analogy right there. But it's also quite literal, too. Striking is a more effeminate form of martial arts. Both effeminate and feminine. Try running a gym. How many of you do this? Some of you do. I know some gym owners watch this channel. And in your gyms, some of you offer a variety of different classes, maybe some jiu-jitsu classes, maybe an MMA class, maybe a kickboxing class, maybe a boxing class. Which types of classes get the most women to come? The wrestling classes? No, I can tell you right now. I've never been to your school, but I know. The wrestling classes have the least women of all, and the most men. Where do most of the women in your gyms go? The striking classes, the boxing classes, the kickboxing classes. Why? Because there's something inherently feminine about keeping distance between you and the danger, which is what striking is about. And there's something very masculine about being the danger, about grabbing the opposition and crushing it, and taking that space and that distance away. One is not better, one is not worse. I'm just saying, for all you guys out there who refuse to learn how to grapple because you think it's icky, I want you to reevaluate things a little bit. Grappling, wrestling in particular, as this young Mongolian man pointed out, has all the masculine traits. Being a wrestler means having all the masculine traits, does it? What are the masculine traits? You are strong. You have to be. You are physically fit. You have to be a good wrestler. What else? You have to be hard-working. What is a man, a real man, if not hard-working? Think about that for a minute. Which masculine traits are not personified by a good wrestler? Let me tell you a little bit about the wrestlers that I knew growing up. I grew up in a small farming town in the state of Idaho in the United States. I didn't wrestle as a child. I didn't wrestle in high school or in college. I get asked about this a lot now because I learned how to wrestle as an adult to become a better mixed martial artist. And I got pretty good at it. And so every time I go to a jiu-jitsu class with people I haven't rolled with before, and I out-wrestle them and out-position them, they look at me with these wide eyes and they say, "Oh, did you wrestle in high school?" Nope. Really? Did you wrestle in college? Nope. Really? Then how do you know how to wrestle? Because I got out there and trained. That's how. But these folks in my hometown, most of these guys are farmers. They wake up at 4 in the morning to go do farm chores, milk the cows, change sprinkler pipe, dig ditches, do whatever needs to be done before they go off to school. They go to school. Before they open a book, they're on the wrestling mat. They're working hard. When everybody else is sleeping in, trying to figure out a lame excuse to come in late to their social studies class in the morning, what are the wrestlers doing? They're getting out there and training after they've already done hard manual labor on the farm. And then they do a full day of school. And frequently, they'll do another wrestling practice after. And then that weekend, do they get time off? No, man. They're cutting weight and they are competing. And the next weekend, do they get a break? No. They're cutting weight and they're competing. And they do this again and again and again. The entire season. A professional fighter, man, that's a tough job. You might have 3 or 4 hard fights in a year. But a high school wrestler? Oh, man. You got essentially a fight, often multiple fights every weekend. Think about that, man. At the end of a school year, you could have 50 matches under your belt. And you never get to get lazy, especially in a small farming town. I can't think of more masculine kids than those dudes, man. More principled. People always talk about how tough wrestlers are, and they think it's the technique. No, it's the lifestyle. It's the masculine attributes that are required to be that kind of person. The average high school kid grows up in a big city, doesn't have farm chores. He doesn't wake up at 4 in the morning to milk the cows or shovel manure or anything like that. The kid who sleeps in and sneaks in late. That's not masculine. That's not manly. And that's not helpful. Not to you, not to anybody. Think about that. It's interesting, this lament that this young 18-year-old wrestler, an 18-year-old, young guy, and young guys are not generally known for their wisdom. We tend to give young guys a pass when they're stupid, when they're irresponsible. Let's not do that anymore. Let's hold our young men to a higher standard. And I love what he says right here. To my fellows out there, I want to say that our generation is starting to forget our national sports. We should be interested in our national sports. It is a very important part of our culture. Now, I don't know what your national sport is, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be your national sport. But there's something important and sacred about your traditions of manly, masculine competition that the world seems to be trying to forget and brush under the rug. It's strange. It's very strange. The world does not seem to want to hold our young men to a high standard. And yet we complain. We complain when they fail. Hold yourself to a higher standard. My friends, my young friends, my old friends, all of my friends, my enemies too. You know who you are. You guys typing angry things in the comments, trying to get under my skin, but you shall not succeed. That's not a manly thing to do either. Cut it out. Stop. Wake up. Remember the traditions that are good. The traditions that pushed your forefathers to greatness. Whether that was waking up early in the morning to work, showing up early to do something extra, staying a little later to get some work done. What is power other than the capacity to perform work? All martial arts is the pursuit of power, one kind or another. It is. Whether you have an intellectual interest in it, or whether you want to beat people up and win fights, that is all part of the pursuit of power. The capacity to perform work. What is more masculine than that? Some people ask me fairly frequently in the comment section, Ramsey, what does it mean to be a man? Growing some scruff on your face, having a deep, manly voice that commands authority? No. Although if you have those traits, some people might be fooled. No. It's something inside. It's what you do. It's what you do that matters. It's not what you look like. It's not how tall you are. It's what you do. So make sure it counts. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.